What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Stereotherapy. I'm your host, Lisa, and this is episode 103. Today on the show, I was joined by Travis Williams of Safe Scene, New Jersey. It was such a great conversation, and I got to meet Travis at the Anthony Green show at Crossroads in New Jersey. Again, if you have not been to this venue, it is so special. It is so amazing. If you are local here, you know about it, and you probably love it the way I do. Travis and other people that are local here feel the same way about this special place. It was really cool to connect with Travis and get to witness what he does for the New Jersey music scene community and having his table there and having supplies out. So people were either picking up supplies, asking questions, donating, so many things. And I love to see that this is present in a music scene. And I knew I wanted to have Travis on. We talk all about the early days for Travis and the New Jersey punk scene. It was really cool again to dive in with someone that has been a part of this just legendary scene for so long. And it's such a special scene. And to get to hear firsthand how it's been for him was really cool. We dive into harm reduction and how we can be better at building community and helping our neighbor. And I think right now, the time we're in, it's such an important message. We also dive into how Travis was able to come back to the music scene after some time away. And I think it was really important to hear that because I think we all have different experiences in our mental health in the music scene and what it provides or what it can maybe be in a negative light at sometimes and you got to take a break from it. So I loved all that. I'll have all links below where you can check out Safe Scene New Jersey, donate, pick up products, ask questions. This is such a great conversation, and I appreciate Travis taking the time for me. Here is my conversation with Travis Williams of Safe Scene New Jersey. One of the first questions we love to ask everybody is, what are your first memories of falling in love with music? Whether it was a time, a place, a record, a moment. What was it for you that was like, this is really special to me?
Yeah, so I grew up, sorry, my cat's like climbing up my shoulder.
You're
Um,
good. No.
when I was growing up, like my cousins were really into the punk scene,
Mm,
and I was a kid. I was 12 and sneaking around and going to there was a VFW a couple blocks from the house. I mean, the first one I remember, a friend of mine was in a band and called the Jabsco Project, and they were like a ska reggae kind of band. So we, me and a couple friends scooted across town to this VFW hall. There's a bunch of old men in the back bar smoking cigarettes, and then like
hmm
all these punk kids. And at the time, there was a record label called No Milk Records out of New Jersey, and I think it was like Forever's End, Bank Robbers, like all these like really cool like punk or punk adjacent bands were playing, and it was just this wild space that none of us were ever like we listened to the records but none of us were ever like entrenched in it.
hmm
And three kids in like whatever it was, seventh, eighth grade, maybe, just walking into this VFW hall and all these people just like basically beating the shit out of each other and
Yeah.
and screaming along, diving on top of each other, and it was wild. And like right there, that was it. Every Friday, Saturday was which VFW or American Legion or backyard or basement can we get into and like get more of this.
Oh, like that's like even for me, it was like those moments you're describing. Like I remember, I believe it was a church because I'm originally from the Midwest, like 30
Yeah.
minutes out of Chicago. So being from there and experiencing that too, I think then we went to like this Wheaton Grand Theater, like a little theater place. And it was again, it was I remember seeing these kids with like big mohawks and whatever. And I'm into punk music and pop punk or whatever I'm into, but seeing that and again, like people just beating on each other, but in a way different. Like someone might not understand, right? If they just see that, they might think, oh, that's really violent. That's that. And there is, but there was something about that that was like, okay, like this is for me, even though I'm a young girl, there's
Yeah.
something about this that is speaking to me and just the authenticity of people. It was like, that was it for me. So I can relate to that so much. And that led me down the path I am today. Like without seeing that and being around that, I'm like, I don't think I would be where I'm at today, even as a person or just my mindset or anything like that. It's crazy how those little things shape you so much. And
Yeah.
it's so cool. And I'm even talking about New Jersey, like I feel like the New Jersey scene, at least for me from the outside, and now being here, it's always was such a sacred thing. And for me,
Mhm.
even in Midwest, it was like bands like Thursday,
Yep.
hearing them and seeing like there was like a documentary. I can't think of the documentary, but they were talking about like the basement shows in New Jersey. And that for
Yeah.
me was like, I've got to be there. I want to get to the New Jersey, just East Coast. This is speaking to me. For you, how important has, I mean, you already touched on a little bit, but the New Jersey music scene, what about it has truly shaped you?
New Jersey, that there's obviously a ton of like genres, subgenres, and like we had access to all of it,
Hmm.
whether it was like punk or emo or hardcore or, even like weird, drony kind of like it was all there, and growing up going to local shows or, these VFW halls and it wasn't a genre bill. It was, the whole community and everybody that was involved getting together. So like you'd have like a beatdown hardcore band and then a ska band and an emo band and like some dude playing bongos.
Hmm.
Like it was all there.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, I'm sure like as like a young teen or whatever, we took a lot of it for granted, but like it kind of built like this space where everybody could be their own person and like everybody, we didn't all agree on everything, but we all agreed that we wanted to be there for the music and like it made us feel, connected and like a community.
And it feels, it always felt that way. Like I said, when I would watch any documentary about any New Jersey band, but I just remember it was all about, it seemed like such a community. And I had my own back home, but there was just something special, it seemed. And even moving here and going to some local shows and having some bands on my podcast that are from here, hearing and seeing them say those same things. Like
Hmm.
it seems like it hasn't changed. And I know some people may say that have been here a lot longer, may say have their opinions for sure. But for me, I'm like, I can see that. And even I've said it a couple times moving here and even doing the podcast, I have felt way more supported by people here in the scene than even back home. And that's no dig on them. I mean, I loved my friends and everything there, but there is something special about this scene still today that I see. And it's, I mean, you see it in the people when Thursday just played at Crossroads. You see that community that is
Yeah,
still there. Is there a favorite moment for you? Maybe seeing a band from the New Jersey scene for you?
that's a hard one.
Yes.
Um,
I know. I'm like, oh,
like,
how, like that's like picking your favorite child, like what can
yeah.
you do?
I mean, there's been so much cool stuff that happened in New Jersey, and like we had, XSDB and Trustkill and Drive Through, and like
Mhm.
all these great promoters and artists and record labels, and like all this huge DIY stuff that like blew up, and like you could go to this place. It's gone now. It was called um, Chrome, Club Chrome up in like South Amboy. And like on Friday night, it was, Hope's Fall. And then Saturday night was Fallout Boy in the side room, like on their first major US tour to like, a couple hundred kids in maybe even less than that. Honestly, like the time from that happening and now like it's bigger than
Yeah.
so but like honestly just being able to like get a ride to a show and like walk in and like we're we all had our shit going on at home and like but being able to like just walk into a gig and like feel that release of like okay I can like chill the fuck out and like be myself or whatever version of myself that was then
Mm-hmm. And
um
I think, and how does it feel for you to now then be in some of these venues? Like I know you were at Starland for Under Oath, with Safe Scene. How does that feel to now be it was obviously a big part back then from what you're saying, but now you're in a different way. It's almost like you're giving back to that scene in a way that raised you.
Yeah. I mean, like, so there was a big gap in like me going to shows and then just kind of like falling out, and like we'll probably cover that later.
Yeah.
But getting back into shows in like a different capacity, it's huge. So, you know, I had a chaotic or toxic relationship with shows, live music, you know, the whole scene.
Hmm.
But you know, after stepping back and taking, a few years to, get where I'm at now, it's really wild to like look at it from a different perspective. And I mean, I did a New Brunswick basement show
Hmm.
last week, and like I was partying in those basements when the people that are there now were probably being born,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
and
Yeah.
like nobody was there when we were doing that in the basement doing what Safe Scene does. So it's just it's wild to talk to people and like hear their perspective on it. You know, yeah, it, it's crazy to that not crazy, but like crazy to think that like something small like just popping up and like talking to people, like the
Hmm.
responses, comments, emails, texts I get like after shows, or it's wild. I don't know.
Yeah, and even seeing that, I saw that on there that you were at a basement show in New Brunswick, and I was like, "Well, this is so cool that that's still going on." Like, I understand, like, basement shows do go on, but like growing up in that, and then to hear still is very much a thing. I forget what band I had on. Gosh, they're gonna probably kill me, but it was so long ago. But it's gonna bother me. I'll figure it out. But they were
Yes,
on, and they were telling me all about it. That it still is a thing. You just have to find it. And when then I saw your thing, and I said, well, it clearly is still a thing, and that makes me so happy because in a world today where there is like the larger shows, the larger arena shows that we're all flooded with some of these bands we grew up with, you had those opportunities to be in those rooms and have a special moment in a basement or a VFW or anything like that, or even just going to Crossroads for me is so special because the history there, and also just it's so intimate, it's so
yeah,
special. So for me, it's like when I get a show there, I'm like, I almost feel like I'm in that setting, but still not. Like there's something special about the basement versus Crossroads, but it's a similar thing where I'm like, you just feel that energy, at least for me, going to a show there for sure.
absolutely. And I mean, like Andy and Lee put like a million hours of work into like keeping it that special place that and I mean they're seasoned in the New Jersey music scene, and they grew up going to basement shows,
Hmm.
and VFW halls, and like I think they built like a really great space to, you know, continue that on a different level. So
Obviously, too, music and mental health. I want to ask you, how has music been an aid to your mental health? In what ways?
that's where it gets tricky is I uh I think like 2 weeks I'll be 5 years sober, or yeah, 5 years. So I had grew up with you know stuff going on just like everybody else, and immersing myself in like the shows and the punk scene, and you know even as a kid, like everything's available to you. And so I got into a really kind of chaotic pattern of drinking and whatever else that really shined at live music events. So when I decided to stop drinking, music events disappeared with that for a while. And I went through a lot of struggles, I guess, in that time, like the 2 years after stopping drinking. But now revisiting the music scene and going to, I did 15, 16 shows between October and December. And just being in that space where like I had really bad personal relationships with, live music, the shows that, and even the music
Hmm.
itself, because it put me in that mental space. So being able to go and enjoy a show and give back to the community and educate people and, make sure that, I struggled, that doesn't mean anybody else has to. So, being able to like go out and I don't want to say preach, but like, uh, talk to people and get their perspectives, see where they're at, and kind of tell them that like it's okay to be fucked up,
Hmm.
and you know we're here to help, and even if you just need to talk or do whatever, but when you're ready, like here's the resources, and you know you can be safe and not go down the path that a lot of friends and stuff have.
Yeah, and I thank you for being open and sharing that because I think that's so important for people to hear that it is. I know some people say like, it's okay to not be okay, and they'll just see that and keep swiping. But it is
Yeah,
so true, and that's kind of like even with starting this podcast in my own mental health, it was really hard at one point. I didn't even listen to music. I didn't even do that because I didn't want to do it, and that moment when it was like, okay, again, I want to let people they're not alone, whether it's having people like you or anyone we've had on, is seeing that, you know what, it is okay to have that. I struggle with my anxiety disorder. There's someone else that struggles just in their day to day. And I think with more people here, hey, whether it's a man or a woman, and they're sitting there saying these things, it's like, oh wow, like there's a stigma in so much, whether it's men's mental health, women's just
yeah.
mental health, just health in general, and I think it's so important, and that's why like I love what you're about, and I would love if I just want to give you the floor a little bit. So if someone clicks on this and they're unfamiliar, to kind of talk about Safe Scene New Jersey and what
Sure.
what is that all about?
So we're a 501(c)(3) nonprofit. We focus primarily on harm reduction at shows. I like to, I'll cover any show. Personally, I like smaller venues just because that's like where I come from,
Mhm.
and the people there are, more. They're in it. They're not that sometimes you go to bigger venues or festivals and stuff, they're casual listeners or like
Mhm.
but these smaller venues, basements, Crossroads, even Starland, it's a pretty
Yeah.
small venue, they're there because you know they're they're living that experience, through music. And sometimes you get in the wrong space and there's a lot of things available to you.
Mhm.
So, harm reduction and resources, whether it's mental health or addiction resources, stuff like that should be just as available as, the bar
Mhm.
next to where we're set up. So that's our primary goal. And then moving into this year, trying to reach out and do some more community events, whether it's street outreach, syringe exchange, stuff like that. Partnering with other mutual aid groups that do, that just make stuff available for people, no questions asked,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's really great. Like when we were talking to Anthony that night, I loved that to see you guys were set up there. And I know the week before at Thursday in Crossroads too. And it was really interesting to hear him talk about harm reduction and bring that into our conversation because again, I said it then, but it almost allowed me to kind of check myself. I've had friends that have struggled, and it was always you grew up, it was just say no. That's the policy. Just say no. Why can't you do, just or go here, go to this rehab or go do that, and not realizing the way we were not educated back then. And
Mhm.
now being 38 and in that time of, okay, there's other ways to do this and meet someone where they're at. And I think again, I didn't know back then, so I'm offering that grace of like I didn't know, and this is what I was
Yeah.
taught, and this was what I was around. But I love to see this, and I love to see people asking questions too. Like when I
Mhm.
was there, And I heard, people were asking you questions and they want to know about that. And I think there's such a stigma surrounding that. And I'm sure people have their opinions on harm reduction, but for me, I love to see that. And like you said, where a place where there's a bar, right?
Yeah.
And that's accessible. And I think it's great to have this stuff accessible because we're in a time now where people are struggling. And a lot of times when they are struggling in their mental health, it's it's very tough. So to see this and then in this music scene that again from a far away, I was like, this is so special. I love to see it. And I hope that there's more opportunities for you to be in other places too, because I think
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that need to be educated on this. Absolutely.
I mean, we do a lot of online education stuff, and we work really close with other organizations nationally, locally, to kind of feel out what people are encountering, where the focus should be, what new, whether it's additives in, street drugs
Mhm.
or, whatever's going on, so that we try and it's going to be impossible to stay ahead of, but as long as we can get the education early enough and start educating people, hopefully before they encounter it. I think that's really important too. So yeah, yeah,
Mm. Yeah, and I think it's that form of community and that sense of community is so important, especially now, right? Like on a day like today, where there's a lot of people uncertain about a lot of things. And I think we're in a time where I know personally a lot of people going through a lot of things. And I think if
hmm
we have that sense of community, it, that's how, whether we're going to get through this a difficult time if people are having a difficult time and just every day, they wake up and people are dealing with shit all the time. They're dealing
yeah.
with it in different ways and how they process it. And I think to have something like this and that sense of community, and especially in a place where the music scene where people already are either longing for or they have that sense of community when they go to these venues. And then you bring this there and it's like, all right, let me do this. I mean, I grabbed a couple stuff and it was just hearing a lot of my friends too when I brought this up and having you on, they were like, "Oh yeah, I carry Narcan in my bag all the time. This is what I do." And it really led me to believe like, wow, I'm behind in that, but I'm glad now I'm educated to be like, I should be carrying this with me. I should have this. I should be telling other people about this. So I appreciate all you do for this and just whether it's an Instagram post I can share with people that aren't here that have no idea what this is. And I guess if there is anyone, I don't know if you've encountered it, but if maybe someone has a negative view, maybe in harm reduction, and maybe if some people have said, oh, it's enabling, which I don't believe, but what do you almost say to those people to sort of, I don't know if you can even educate them. I mean, you can educate, but what do you say to those people, I guess, that are on the fence with that?
So I mean engaging in conversation and letting them lead with, ask them just basic questions. Why do you feel like that? And sometimes they get standoffish, but like if you approach it with I'm interested in your opinion and your thought process and you know how you landed at this conclusion, and then you can kind of like work off of their answers. I know there is a ton of people that believe it's enabling, and but I mean it's just look out for your neighbors, and if you don't do it, fine, that's cool, good for you, but
Hmm.
somebody is going to, and you know you should be prepared because everybody's life is worth saving. you know
Yeah, that's so important. And I think that sometimes it really gets me when I hear people, the way we talk about people struggling. And I've heard people, whether we're out and about or even people I personally know, where I've had to almost check when they've said certain things and they knew someone was struggling and, immediately some of their language. And I'm at the point now in my life where I'm confident enough to, again, listen to, okay, why, but also I don't want to say check because I don't want to make a negative thing or like I'm being rude, but I'm almost letting them and educating them on, hey, that language is not okay. And
Yeah.
we need to work on that and how we treat people because, you know, how, being just empathetic because you don't know. And you can say, oh, I would never do that, or I don't know anyone like that, but you just don't know. And I think
Hmm.
my fiance, I'll be honest, was in a really bad work-related accident. He got prescribed Oxy, was on it for way too long. We dealt with withdrawals. We dealt with, and
Oh,
again, there's no protocols like Anthony said in our episode.
no,
And
absolutely not.
I was so glad he said that because for me, we dealt with the hardest years and people around us are saying this language. And I'm like, you have no idea what we're going through. But let me tell you, like, your person that you love so much and say is a best friend, yet you are using this language when we're in
Hmm.
our own house going through this monthly, every 30 days, you know? And I think I hope that things like this or more people talking about it will change that language because, you know, for me, I got so angry at them. And because it was such a personal thing. And it was the first time where I really had a seat to what so many have struggled for so a lot longer than we have. And
Hmm.
I think I hope the language changes because some people still really do need to learn that it it can happen to anyone. You can find yourself in
Yeah.
a situation you never thought you would, and you are, or someone you love is, and then we just have to be really compassionate. And that's why, again, I think everything you do because it really has taught me to even look back on those years where I was like, well, you know, why are they acting this way? Or they're irritable because of this or this? Realizing like, holy shit, they're going through withdrawal of
Yeah.
an opioid right now. This is what they're doing. You know, there's a lot to that. So yeah, it's really caused me to go back and look at even the language I've used in my life.
Hmm. Yeah. I'm personally, I used that same language, before I went through anything. And it's not worth feeling shitty about yourself, but like you can learn and you can take the steps to move yourself forward and at the same time like move your community forward and like
Yeah.
listen, I'll act like a child if I have to. Like I will call somebody out on their shit, like that if it comes to a point where, they're being rude or whatever, I can lose my temper. But like
Mhm.
um I do try and keep a cool head and talk to people, but it just it can get upsetting, especially like from somebody who dealt with it like firsthand. And like honestly, a lot of those people that said they were there for me or whatever,
Mhm.
they were radio silent for 2 years, you
Mhm.
know, friends or, whoever.
Yeah.
Um, you know, they were there for the party. And when the party was over, you know,
Mhm.
they were gone. And I was left in my own mess and my own feelings and my own head. And, it was me and my wife. Like,
Mhm.
that was it. And, my family was there too. I do appreciate them. But there was a lot of shit going on that really changed my perspective. And yeah, I mean, I could have been one of the people that didn't make it out, especially going through like withdrawal and detox and like full blown psychosis. Like, that your brain just fucking flips on you. It's not even yours anymore, And coming out on the other side and you like look back and you're like, wow, all that shit I said or, when I wasn't being compassionate because, I'm cool. I'm good. I can handle this. Sucks that they can't. You know what? Wipe that right off the table because, you know, when you are at, you know, whatever rock bottom you hit at that point, you're hoping somebody sticks their hand out and says like, "Hey, dude, you're cool. You're good. You're gonna be okay."
Mhm.
So, no judgment, no stigma, no nothing. And I think it's important to give that to everybody.
Yeah. It is because I mean, we dealt with that a lot too, where people again, people that would say they would be there for you. And it was us battling that for years. And
Yeah,
I almost had to then, as the partners struggling with that, be like, kind of accept, like, I don't want to say accept, but kind of just be like, all right, we had to take care of this. We handled this, but almost just get through it and be
yeah,
there. And again, thank you for sharing that because, again, I think someone out there could, whether they're not educated on it, they've been through that, hearing they're not alone is going to help so much because I think it just is still wild to me. We have so many in 20, well, it's 2025 now, oh my gosh,
yeah,
but 2025 is wild to think that we still have some of these opinions that are floating around in that and making people feel so alone in that. You know, we just got out of the
hmm
holidays, which is the happiest time of the year for so many people, but also the hardest for people
yeah,
and their mental health or whatever they're going through and struggling. And I think that the more people we have to let people know they aren't alone, it's really going to help. And I hope if anyone out there is listening, I can't wait to link all your stuff and send people to show that there are places. I'm sure maybe if they're not here in New Jersey, right? I'm
yeah.
sure I hope other music communities have stuff like this
They're
because it should be.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely out there. I mean, I know some people out in, Northern Kentucky, Texas, like and even in like really hard spaces to promote harm reduction and get supplies out. Like
Mhm.
people are doing it and it's grassroots and it's fucking illegal in some spots,
Mhm.
like the states don't make it easy. I mean, I know places, xylazine test strips are still contraband,
Wow.
which is wild because like literally how do you tell somebody like you can't have this life-saving tool?
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
it, I don't get it, but there's a lot of great organizations pushing for, policy change and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And there's a lot of great people on the ground just doing it regardless. Like honestly, if if we're the world's wild right now and there's a lot of shit going on. And sorry, I think my son's trying to sneak into my room.
No, yeah,
Um,
no, you're
it's
fine.
cool. There's a lot of stuff going on, and who knows, like, even somebody like me, who like New Jersey's a very, very open state to helping people and making stuff accessible. But like, my daughter's coming to jump in for a second.
You're fine. You're
Um,
fine. No, hey, that's
it's
why I'm
cool.
audio only because
Yeah.
I'm like, it's cool. That way we don't have hi.
Hello.
But hi. But that's great to hear that there are
Um,
people doing it in other places, even when it's difficult to do.
yeah.
So I think
Um,
that's really cool to hear.
but like, even if it gets difficult, just like those people, I'll
Mhm.
still be out there doing it, whether it's, whether it becomes, criminalized or not, like people still need help.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing is that
You
people,
got to go back with
yeah,
mommy for a
yeah,
minute.
yeah,
Yeah, I got to finish.
yeah, you're
Yeah,
almost done. You're
I'm
fine.
almost done, baby.
Yes, I promise.
And then you can do your own podcast, okay?
Oh, there we
No,
go.
if you, Taylor, if you give me a break and let me finish,
Yeah.
you can do your own video,
Yes. Oh my
right?
gosh. No. But I think that's so important that people need help. And I think now more than ever, we need to be there for people. That's what
Yeah,
I mean, because I'm an empathetic person. I've always been that person to give that shirt off my back and always be there. And even this podcast of helping people. And I think that we need more of that. And I guess if anybody too is wondering how, how best if they think someone around them is
here,
struggling.
you got to go in the other room, okay? Go, go,
Yeah, really
go,
quick. Give me like 5 minutes.
go.
Five
Yeah,
minutes. You got 5 minutes. I know. If someone is struggle or is knows someone around them might be struggling and they're kind of fearful of how to approach them, right? Because that's another thing sometimes. You're not sure what, I don't want to say advice, but I guess what do you say to someone that may think that someone is struggling around them? What may be the best approach to try and help them?
I mean, you got to meet them where they're at.
Mhm.
There's no listen. If somebody's face down in the mud, you're not gonna wipe them off before you pick them up. Like just
Mhm.
get in there. No stigma, no judgment. Do your research, and learn how to just treat them like a person. Like they're whether it's addiction or mental health or any of that, they're a person at the end of the day. They're a person, and just
Yeah.
treat them like a person that, needs help. You'd stop and pull over on the side of the road to help somebody change a tire. You
Mhm.
know, like take it for the most open, no, they're not doing anything wrong. They got into a situation that they need help out of,
Yeah.
or they just need somebody to listen and understand, so
The biggest thing sometimes is people don't listen. They
mhm,
don't listen. They don't want to listen. They forget how to listen and just meet people where they are at. And I think that's the most important thing. And I guess too, before I let you go, and I appreciate everything you've said today. I think it's truly, I think, going to not only help people be educated on it, but also know they're not alone. But I'm going to have all the links so everyone can find you.
absolutely.
But if people want to find you and they just want to listen, where is the best place to find Safe Scene New Jersey?
It probably Instagram.
Hmm.
That's like, I suck at websites.
Yeah.
It's just not my thing. Facebook's like
Yeah.
not, it even like they just it doesn't work well. I try and put like as much crossover content on Facebook, but Instagram's the place.
Perfect. Oh, I will. But oh, thank you so much for wanting to come on and do this. I'm really excited to get this one
Yes.
out
Stop.
because
Here.
it is, yeah, it's going to help so much. And I truly appreciate what you do. And I'm so excited that this is going to be on my podcast because I want to bring this conversation forward.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Honestly, at any platform that like we can get out there and educate people and just like, start a conversation, it's important because the goal, with harm reduction overall is saturation. If more people have access to the tools and resources to save, whether it's their life or a friend's life or a stranger's life, like, look at the research and like, you know, people who use drugs save as many or more lives than first responders when it comes to overdose.
Mhm.
So it's really important that, everybody has access to these tools.
Yeah. And that's one thing I've learned over the last year or two and even seeing people like the end overdose and what they do as well and educating that. And I think, yeah, we have to help, like you said, like help your neighbor, help each other. That's what we need to do. We need to be there for people and be together now more than ever as a community, whether again, not just speaking music community, but just community people and forming that. So and
Yeah,
that's how we're going to make a difference. I truly
it
believe
is.
that when we come together and and do that and educate people too. And like you said, listen when, there is somebody that maybe is saying things for me not even to react in a certain way and be like, you know what? I can use this time to educate them and kind of help that out instead of getting so angry that someone doesn't understand. Try and again meet them where they're at and talk about it.
Yeah, my aunt like tells me all the time, or reminds me all the
Mhm.
time, is like, listen to learn, not to react.
Mhm.
It's super important because everybody's always looking to like respond. It's this constant. So like, just listen to learn. You don't have to immediately have a response or opinion. You can always go out and do more research. You can, you know, so
Yeah.
it's super important. And yeah, I hope everybody checks us out or other local organizations, whether there's mutual aid everywhere. You just got to look for it because, they're not going to be on the news. They're not going to,
No.
that's not what they're looking to cover because it makes the corporations or whatever look bad when, people are just helping people because
Mhm.
they can or they want to.
Yeah. Oh, I
So,
love it. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to clip. What am I gonna clip here? Because I love it so much. But oh, thank you so much. I'll let you get back to your daughter and like
all
do
right.
that. But oh, thank you so much. I'll let you know when this comes out. And all right, guys, that was my conversation with Travis. Again, I can't thank him enough for taking the time for me. I was so happy to have this conversation on the show. I know it's a bit of a different one because we don't have a musician on, but at the end of the day, music is impactful to all of us, our mental health. we talk about our mental health, that things like harm reduction do help and it helps end that stigma. And I'm just really thankful that we were able to have this conversation on this show because I think a lot of things like harm reduction, people that don't know about it, they may have a certain view. And I think people, just the way we treat people around us is so important. And when we talk about mental health, we've got to be there for each other. So I loved everything in here. Please go visit Safe Scene New Jersey. I would love if you gave them a follow and go support. As for our show, if you're liking this thing even just a little bit, be sure to give us a follow, subscribe to the show, as well as a positive rating and review. It goes such a long way, not only for my show, for other shows as well. As for Justine and I, we will be back next week with another episode. Of course, new episodes every Tuesday mornings. They go up, they go live, unless we say otherwise if something goes on. But thank you guys so much for checking out our show. If it was the very first time, I hope you stick around. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.